Hey, it's Dee with DSP Photography. I recently just realized that I used to have a video about Lightroom, clean edit, start to finish, and I had switched video recordings things, and somehow it got lost and deleted, and I don't know where I put it. So we're going to do a new one for you guys on Lightroom. This is Lightroom 4, as you see right here. On this video, I'm just going to go over a clean edit and not really anything else, and just kind of go over what the panel is. We're going to start this image. I took this actually at a workshop with Jenny Kruger. If you don't know who she is, she's a wonderful photographer in Tennessee, JennyKrugerPhotography.com. What I'm going to do is take this little white dropper, and I'm going to try to find a neutral spot, which is usually grays, or blacks and whites sometimes work. It depends on the image. So just drag it over, and luckily on Lightroom you can actually see the preview in this corner as I drag it around, the different colors it's trying to change it to, depending on where I'm dragging this at, as you see up there. And what I'm going to do is put it on this black here, click, and that's what it's going to adjust it as, the correct white balance for this image. And you can tweak that as needed. If you think it's too warm, pull it down. If there's too much magenta, pull that down. Temp will do to the left, it gets more blue, to the right it gets more yellow. You can see the colors, it tells you. Tint, left, green, right, magenta, which are the opposites. The only one you don't see, which it doesn't do because it doesn't, white balance is not with the red, like you would in curves. You don't see a red to do red and cyan, and that's because of what makes up for white balance. But you can tweak those also by going in a different panel. So once I have my white balance where I like it to be, and that's the most important thing to do, is have a correct exposure and your white balance right. And I mean, after that, then you can kind of just make minor adjustments. So I'm going to pull this up just a little bit on my exposure. The highlights, if you're on Lightroom 3, the older versions, this is a completely different panel. I'll switch over at the end of this and just go over that really quickly. But for now, I'm just going to go over what 4 and 5 have. Although 5 has some other advantages, but I'm in 4 right now. Highlights, you pull it down. I like to pull mine down. Go to the right if you want to pull them up. I pull them down just slightly, like -10, -15, depends on the image, just so I can make sure they don't blow out. I like to pull my shadows up just a tad, and I pull my blacks down a tad, and my contrast up. And then clarity is just gonna add definition to the midtones. So if you go to the right, it adds definition. If you go to the left, it smooths it out. With the older person, I'll go down a little bit, and it really softens it. If you're going for that soft, glowy look, that's a good way to do it. Pull it down, it's really glowing, but you know, around -30 is kind of softens it up a little bit. And if you want to do more of a hard edge, urban images, those look great like that. Up here, not obviously 100's too much, but like 20s to 30s, it ranges. I only go around -10 to 15. Vibrance. The difference between vibrance and saturation, they both affect colors. As you can see, if I go all the way up here, and if I go all the way up here, you'll notice though on a vibrance, the skin is not affected as much as when you do saturation. So I'll pull saturation up slightly, and I will pull vibrance up even more. I like colorful images. You can pull it down if you like it more subdued. The next panel is a tone curve, and I'll go over more on curves later in another video. But basically, the left side of this curve, this line right here, affects your blacks, your shadows. So pulling it up, as you can see, lightens up my shadows. Pulling it down deepens them. The right side is my highlights. Going to the left brightens them up. Pulling it down mutes them. And then obviously the middle is my midtones, and this is where you'll add points, and then you can really get creative on your curves on how you want your image to look. You can turn it off and on and see. We're going to flatten it. If you cannot pull points and you're not sure why, it's probably because it's like this, it looks like this, and you are not able to pull left side up like you want, that left point. All you do is click this little guy right here, and now you have a point there, and you can, oops, grab it and make more of a matte look if you want. So that was just a really quick curve, and that kind of, as you can see in the blacks right here, it adds a matte look. Flatten it. If you want a more bold look, you want to pull that down. It's called the S curve. It creates a contrast. This is a very subtle S curve. This one is. I don't like too much contrast. If it's too strong, you can go up here and pull it back a little bit instead of having to do that. Or you can add more up there if you want. If you want to make a subtle one. And what's great is that you can also open your channels up and change the curves per channel, so I can actually just add more red to my midtones by pulling the midtones on the red. Add some yellow in my highlights, which I like to do. I usually do it with a levels, but since we don't have levels in here, we'll do it right here with the tone curve. And going up on the red curve adds red, going down adds cyan. To the left, same thing, and it's the same thing where it affects your shadows. You can see right now as it's adding red to my shadows, and it adds cyan to my shadows, but it's gonna pull my highlights up to red. Oops, sorry. Okay, there we go. So anytime you put a point above here, this would be midtones. These are all the darkers. These are all the lighter areas of your image. When you pull it up, it's going to add red. Pull it down, it's going to add cyan to wherever part of your image you want. Greens, you pull it up, it's going to add green. Pull it down, it's going to add magenta. And like I said, I added yellow. I pulled the yellow highlight down just a little bit to add a yellow tone to the highlight. So anything you pull down here, it's going to add yellow. If you pull it up, let's add some blue into the shadows, just a little bit right there. And if you want more control on where you're actually want to point, like if you specifically want to affect this shirt, you can click on this little guy right here, and it highlights it. You'll see that same little visual here. You come out here and you'll see on my curve over here there's going to be a dot moving around, and that depends on where I'm at in my image. So pull it down. So then you can actually fine tune where you want your colors to be affected at. Like if I want the shirt to add a little bit more blue in the shirt, I could pull that down. That's not the look I'm going for. Oops. You can always right click at any time and flatten it if you want to start over. You made an error like I sometimes do. And we're going to pull the blues up just a bit. And anytime you can turn off this and turn it on, you can see the difference between what I just did in the basic was just simple, which I actually pulled the contrast back down that I did earlier, and then when I turn my tone curve back on, so the color on the red and that's more towards my style, so you may not want to do that, but it's just to give you an idea of what you want to play with. Hue, saturation, luminance, you can actually go in and change how a color appears. So my blue shirt, purpley shirt, I can play with the purple here and see as it changes colors. Blue is also going to affect it, so I can actually kind of make my shirt look more purple. And then make it more even pink. So I can play around with that. And you just have to watch because it's a global. It affects the entire image. So you can't mask anything off like you do in Photoshop. You can change saturation if you want your oranges to be more saturated, pull them up, whatever. It depends, every image is obviously different. So we can play with the saturation on that shirt to make it pop a little bit more. And luminance, luminance to the right, it's going to lighten that color channel, and to the left, not color channel, that color in the image, and to the left it's going to deepen it. So on luminance, I like to pull my reds and my oranges up just slightly, and my yellows sort of up a little bit. Then I pull my greens. Everything else I pull pretty much down except for magenta, because red, orange, yellow, magenta all make up skin tones, and I don't like them to look deeper because, as you'll see right here, it looks kind of muddy or dirty looking. I guess if you wanted to go for that dirty effect, it's a good way to do that, but you don't want to go too bright because it will blow it out. Yellow, you can actually may pull it down on this image. It depends on obviously the skin tone of the person, so it's best to play around with it. Or same as the tone curve, click this little guy, and you can see as it scrolls through the different colors what I'm actually going to be, what's going to affect that exact spot. So my skin here is orange, and then you can kind of roll around and see where is it actually affecting what color you'll need to play with. So that's actually changing colors. But split toning, you can add a tone to your highlights. If you want to add yellowy highlights, I don't like to get anything but a warm tone because it looks weird with cool tones. It depends. If you add that cool tone in the tone curve on the highlights, you can play with a cooler tone here, but otherwise it's going to look kind of funky. And the warm tones, you can see as the colors tweak through here, are usually around 39 to 59-ish, right around there. And then you can play the saturation, go all the way up or go down. Same as here, you can go all the way up on your saturation so you can actually see the color that maybe you want to put a blue, or actually let's go with more of a pink purple. As you see, it's on the 100%, but I'm going to pull it all the way down to about 7%, and you can turn it off and on and actually see the difference. And the balance, it just is going to balance between applying more towards the shadows. Right now, at middle, it's 50-50. If you want it to be, the shadows to be more prominent, the color there, than the highlights, you pull to the left. If you want the highlight color to be more prominent, you pull to the right. Details is your sharpening. The best thing is click that, and it shows 100%, so you can actually fine tune it. I usually get my color at around 10 to 15, depends on the image, and my luminance depends on if I want actually grain in my image or not. So it's just set at ISO 250, so it's not going to be really high, 15, 20. And then the sharpening, if you hold Alt down while you're doing this, sorry, let me make sure that's the right thing, yeah. You can hold Alt while you're doing it. You can see as it affects it, your radius, how much of it you'll need to apply. Same as detail. And then the masking, you can actually see as it masks it on or off of your image. And it's the same as in Photoshop, white reveals, black conceals. So the farther you go to the right, the less the sharpening will apply towards the image. And then there we go. That was before and after the sharpening with the luminance. Click that bad boy off. Lens correction, if you need to correct like wide angles and stuff like that. This is not one I'm going to correct. If you want to add a vignetting, pull to the left to do a dark vignette, to the right to do a light vignette. And make sure you pull your midpoint, your roundness, and your feather to make it look more natural. And then I don't ever touch that usually. And then you can turn it off and on and actually see the difference. So that was before and that was after. And the best thing is to play with split tonings, play with your tone curve to add different tones. That's how you get creative, is by playing with all these little different things. Hope that helps you guys. Thank you. Sorry I said thank you too early. Like, I'm going to go through here really quick and turn these back off because I want to show it. I'll keep that the same. We're going to go and flatten the curves I tweaked because I really just want to show also the clean edit version. I'm going to show both. That one was more with creative coloring because you can go in and tweak it. I say so much. I'm sorry about that. Let's run off my thing. So this would be what it was out of camera, and this was with the contrast, vignette, the little detailing, and adjusting my white balance on this bad boy. I actually think it's still, if I pick the shirt and make it gray, obviously it's going to warm it up a ridiculous amount, but I think her shirt was more towards gray, so we're going to the best thing is to use your memory on how your color looked. So that was before and that was after. That's a clean edit. The other one is more creative coloring, which you know how to do now because all you do is go and open up your curves and play with each curve, and also add a split tone, which adds a little bit of coloring, and then you can also go into your hue saturation luminance and mess with your hues and make them lean towards a different color. So you can make your greens more yellow or more green, and you can make skin if it's too red, like it's too red, you can pull your reds down. If your orange right here to the right adds a little bit more yellow. So just tweak that as needed for the image. Sorry, and that's pretty much how you do a quick clean edit in Lightroom, and then you could go and save it as a preset so you can apply it to another image, or you can hit Control. Oops, it's Command. I'm on my Mac and I don't use it as often. Click another image, hit Sync, and synchronize them. And this is obviously going to be different. I forgot I pulled the exposure down on this. Apply. I don't want to apply my exposure or my white balance. I don't want it to be the same. So that was before with nothing, and that was with that same exact setup applied to this image. So before, after. And that's how you could quickly edit it with the clean. And my actions are a little bit different. For my actions, my presets, the clean is even more subtle, and then you would go and change your white balance. So it's even more of a subtle, less contrasty clean. Hopefully that helped you guys out. Thank you very much.